everyone. Welcome back to Earth Central. Today, I have a special guest here with me, Giulia Burchi, who is an impact manager at Green Future Project, a big partner of ours. Julie, I would like you to introduce yourself to the listeners by answering the following question. How did you find yourself working in the nature-based solutions industry, and what motivated you specifically to join Green Future Project?
Hi, Julia. First of all, thank you very much for having me. This is a great opportunity for me and for the Green Future Project to actually be able to give our contribution in how we work with you guys. So thank you very much for having me and us. And to answer your question, well, actually, I find myself working with nature-based solutions, I would say since ever, maybe. No, just kidding. But the thing is that I have a passion for nature since ever. I remember myself as a child, like walking around and picking flowers and just looking for animals instead of enjoying the company of other children. So maybe I was kind of a freak, but that because, yeah, yeah, exactly. But that because I'm a really passionate about nature. So it has been throughout my lifetime really a sort of a guiding star with all my studies and how my career has kind of developed since, until now. And regarding Green Future Project, this is actually a funny story because actually I found them on Instagram. Okay, so
Oh, wow.
the story is it was October 2020, so full COVID period,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just freshly graduated with my thesis on international governance of the forest patrimony all around the world. And so I was kind of looking for some interesting opportunities for me. And I was actually scrolling, yes, I admit it, on Instagram, and I found this sponsored advertising with a layer with all forests and trees. And I've said, might be interesting as a nerdy of forest as I am. So I just have a look about these guys working with the projects all around the world. And I said to myself, you know what? They look amazing. And as I told you before, it was COVID time. So, kind of, it was all digitalized. It was all like
Remote.
sending CVs and sending emails instead of calling and meeting. And so I sent my CV and an email to these guys saying, "Hi guys, how can I actually help you? I've just graduated in this. I love what you're doing." And so the conversation started, and I have discovered that they actually launched the very first version of their website 1 month before. So after a couple of months of calls and meetings, I actually fully joined GFP, and so I actually joined pretty much at the very beginning of this whole journey, and now after 3 years and a half, here I am, still with them and loving what we're doing and the project on its entirety.
So it sounds like you guys are like the guardians of the forest. Would that be fair to say that?
We'd love to say that, but we wouldn't be here without our partners. What we do is actually to bridge people and companies to the best climate solutions that we found all over the world, and to spotlight those solutions, because we want to this project to be showcased all over the world, to be able to raise awareness. And so what we do is to collaborate with our local partners that help us to protect forests and plant trees, and so regenerate ecosystems and protect them. And so yes, I would love to claim us as guardians of the forest, but we're not alone in this challenge.
Yeah, of course, it's a whole ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
But one specific phrase you just mentioned, the past projects. So how does your selection criteria come together? I think it will be very interesting for listeners to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a very specific methodology for project selection criteria that we apply to project selection, and hopefully our listeners will be able also to read it, because we're going to publish like a white paper on that.
Oh, great.
But of course, I can give you an anticipation on this. To stay on the macro without going on to the micro, we have three main pillars that are the biodiversity, the CO2 capacity of absorption or avoidance, and the social impact. This means that we actually assess projects from what they are able to do in terms of biodiversity protection and reintroduction, so their positive benefits in terms of species reintroduction, species protection, both flora and fauna, of course. And the other one is the ability of the project to be able to store or avoid CO2 emissions, and so give a contribution also in the mitigation or adaptation to climate change. And also, of course, the social impact. We want to be sure that all the projects we work with actually engage directly the local communities, and that the local communities are able to directly benefit of the positive impacts generated by the project itself. So those are the three main categories that we take into consideration while assessing and doing our very first due diligence about the project that we want to add into our portfolio.
What about something like reputation of the developer? Because as I'm sure a lot of people are aware of, there has been this huge controversy about overall voluntary carbon market, that a lot of developers that propose projects that look great on paper, but then they simply turn out to be, well, non-additional, if we want to use the terminology, or simply they don't really take care of the project once it's live.
Yes, so I think that we need to do a very quick distinction between the projects that are kind of called science-backed, so not related to the carbon market,
Right.
and the ones that are instead certified with carbon credits and so are part of the voluntary carbon market. That is where we operate. For both those categories, what we actually do, it's of course a due diligence of our potential collaborator and local partner. This means studying their history as a local entity. So how did they start everything? How do they collaborate with local communities? What's the environment of stakeholders around them? And so what is their modus operandi? The distinction that I did before is because when it comes to science-backed projects, of course, it is possible that we engage a reality that maybe it's not just born, but maybe it's smaller, not widely recognized, but just because of reach out problem,
Right.
And actually, this is why we step in to give them more visibility and be able to flow funds to their valuable projects. When it comes to carbon credits, instead, I think that the main reason behind doing a due diligence of the developer is that we need to be 100% sure that they have an historical database of successful projects in terms of quality.
Right.
Not as much related to the money that they made out of the projects, but how they actually can prove that the project that they started maybe 30 years ago, it's still there and it's still making a positive impact on the environment. So this is, kind of the big difference between the two main categories of partners that we select.
Do you work with any of the rating agencies like Silvera or B0?
We have been in contact with both of them, and we're still figuring out how to kind of partner, because as a startup, we don't have that huge financial capacity to
Right.
start those kind of collaborations, but we
As far as I
are.
understand, it's very expensive.
Yeah. And I'm not. This is not to be annoying about the cost of everything, but because I truly believe that a quality service comes with a higher price than what is expected. But this is because actually you're accessing to a very valuable service and product. So I totally agree with the fees and everything, but we have been in contact with. We also did some kind of demo accounts with them to being able to check if the project that we have selected so far were rated with a good vote. And we actually discovered that yes, fortunately they are. So good job on us. But but yeah, I mean, we're still trying to find the right financial the right financial possibility to allocate the funds to a collaboration with them.
Gotcha. What about registries? Do you guys work with specific registries, or is it more so whatever fits?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We are Vera account holders, so we have a portfolio in their registry. We mainly work with Vera projects, and this comes with, kind of cutting off the middlemen, because we do not work with resellers. We just work with project developers, and having an account on the registry help us a lot, because it means that the credits can be transferred directly on our profile without passing through another entity. So this helps us a lot.
Right. I'm sure it helps a lot with transparency as well, which is
absolutely. We keep everything publicly and it's absolutely transparent. So anyone can go on our profile and check also the retirements that we did for our clients. There are maybe other organizations or companies that are offsetting with us. So yeah, totally.
In your experience, do you think transparency is the most acute issue of the voluntary carbon market?
It is. I completely relate. And because I think that with all the storm behind the carbon credits. I mean, carbon credits and the voluntary carbon market are a real jungle. If you don't know how to navigate in this jungle, you get lost. And this both in terms of investors like us that wants to select the best project, but also in terms of our clients that actually approach projects and should be able to identify the best project in terms of quality and in terms of, kind of benefits that they want to be sure that are being developed. And transparency in that case, it's the key, because it gives the visibility of the project over a project, and it enables people to really see what's beyond the money that you're putting on a carbon credit itself.
Right.
Transparency means seeing beyond the money and be able to see and touch and concretely kind of experience what the credit that you just purchased is translated into. ... Like, okay, so the money that I'm giving is translated into forest protection, community engagement, and in these exact activities, like transparency is all about that. In being absolutely clear on what you're doing and how you're doing it.
I know you guys have developed a specific portal where your customers can actually access the information about the project. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Our dashboard is actually what the user get access to after financing a project. And it's a dashboard where they are able to see their whole investment translated into KPIs, we can say so. So the CO2 that is being offsetted thanks to their investment, the hectares of forest protected, the number of trees that they supported planting, and also we actually translated this impact in impact cards that are kind of a way to engage more the people, because when you talk about I've protected 1 hectare of forest, maybe common people don't have like the idea of how big is an hectare, or
I don't.
what it means, like a ton of CO2. So we
Right.
translated them into, I mean, the tons of CO2, we translated them into flights between Rome and New York, just to give you an
Oh,
idea
that's really
of,
cool.
yeah, yeah. And trees planted and hectares protected in equal tennis courts. So it means that you
Oh,
have
that sounds
planted
really
an
cool.
area that is equal to a tennis court. Because we wanted to give, it's all about getting to the audience and raise awareness to people and get them really in touch with what they're financing and investing on. And then the cherry on top of everything is the satellite monitoring part that we developed with you guys, and because we integrated your Orbify satellite imagery monitoring system into each specific project that we have on our dashboard, and this allows users to have a live experience of the project, meaning that we integrated the satellite monitoring into the project page, and so users are able to see what's going on the project. And of course, we actually customize the components to each project, whether it's a reforestation with mangroves or a forest conservation one. And we are able both, I mean, we as direct investors on the project are able to monitor if the project is actually successful and it's meeting its goals. And the
Right.
user can, on its part, see if the investment that they made through us is successful on its way.
What's the biggest part of your portfolio? Conservation or restoration?
I think it's a 50-50.
Okay.
Because we have more conservation projects, but the two restoration one that we have are quite big.
Okay.
Yeah, because we do not operate on small scale projects. That because we want to be sure that we are part of a whole ecosystem regeneration activity. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want to like plant 100 trees and just left them there. We
Right.
want them to be part of a whole ecosystem activity, and that is
Bigger-
why
bigger
we
project.
engage with our partner. Yes, but yeah, we have a lot of conservation projects too, mostly located in Ecuador, and they are reserves under the Fundación Hokotoko that is managing locally the reserves. So yeah.
I've heard that it's super important to involve the local community, otherwise the chances of your project being successful are a lot lower. Can you, do you have any insight on that?
Sure. I mean, we operate in countries where local community engagement is key to the success of the project. That because we are kind of used to see nature as something that is there and it's beautiful needs to be protected, no? But people on the other side of the world as another meaning of nature. It's their like livelihoods that are
Right.
based on the nature, no, of the single region or project
The
area.
resources.
Yeah, for them, they are resources. So, through the engagement of these people, you can teach them how to use them properly and actually how to, and how the regeneration or conservation of that specific area is actually better for them in terms also of the long-term use of that resources. So, it's like an engagement in the project activities to enable them to understand the value behind the sustainable regeneration and conservation of the resources, and also their active engagement in activities. So for us, it's mandatory. Our partner for reforestation actually was born as an NGO to eradicate poverty through the local engagement in the exactly regenerating activities. So through the creation of job opportunities and through all the teaching classes and everything. On the other side, our conservation partner actually employs a lot of rangers that are native from the reserves. So it's like virtuous cycle of the things, like engaging the right people, you also ensure the success of the project.
For sure. So do you guys work primarily with the green projects, as in like the actual forest that everybody knows, or do you go beyond that?
I think that we have an holistic approach to forest conservation and forest regeneration. We think that they are one of the most valuable resources that we have as a humanity. And the thing is that, by regenerating and protecting forests, you are ensuring our future on the planet. So our approach is to actually be able to expand the reserves as much as we can, to regenerate as many ecosystems as we can, in order to build a more sustainable future. So we don't just stick to okay, we want to protect this because it's kind of cool and it's because it's green, because it's eco, because it's not greenwashing. No, it's because we really really engage and embark on this mission and vision that is creating better future.
Do you believe voluntary carbon market is efficient enough today, or do we need to be doing a lot more?
A lot more. I mean, there's space to do a lot more. Voluntary carbon market, as I was saying before, it's kind of a jungle, and if you don't have the tools to really understand what's going on, you might get lost. This because it's something that has developed very, very quickly in the past few years, and so there is a lot going on. And with that, I'm saying that the rapidity in which it is developing might be affecting the knowledge that is beyond the carbon market. A lot of stakeholders are engaged in that market. A lot of people might be approaching the market in the wrong way. And so I think that first of all, big awareness project and education project should be done in the whole voluntary carbon market. Then maybe, announcement and strengthening of the standards adopted by different registries, and even if they have different methodologies, I think that they should have like a common baseline, for project assessment, in order to avoid overcrediting, double counting, and all the kind of things. So there is a lot to work on, I think, and as actors directly involved in this, I think that we are called on the forefront of this, I think, and this is what we are very committed to. I mean, when a client approaches us because they want to offset, we try our best to actually make them comfortable, giving them a 360 overview of what is the carbon market, or why they should choose a project instead of another. And we try to explain as much as we can the whole environment, instead of just giving them the project that they want and then it's done. So, yeah.
Do most of the buyers or capital providers that you have, do they offset voluntarily, or is it part of the regulation?
No, I mean, the majority of our clients approaches us for voluntary reasons, and that because we operate also in the voluntary carbon market. What is happening in Europe, at least, is that we're starting to have compliance-based regulations and obligations for companies. So it will be a 50-50 mix of the two things, I think.
So that is concerning the ESG reporting and all that, right? Where scope one.
Yes, CSRD, exactly. It's like the impact report, the sustainability report, and everything that companies are now kind of obliged to report and be very aware of what they claim and how they claim it. It's also the greenwashing regulation. I don't know if you heard about it. Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, they have to be compliant with all these things. So it will be more and more and more kind of not really something that it's that companies are obliged to, but they are on that way.
I see. In your experience, are these companies like real emitters? So they have, I don't know, say in the manufacturing operation, something like this, or they're more like companies that are just like really conscious. So say, I don't know, silly example, a consulting company, and they're offsetting their air travel, for example.
We have seen both. I have to
Okay.
be honest. Yeah, we have seen both. We have seen very small companies that actually wanted to approach the offset and the whole investment in environmental projects for kind of commitment reasons. Like, okay, I
Mm-hmm.
want to do something beautiful for the planet. For the planet, I want to do something. Maybe it's also market driven, but who cares? I mean,
Right.
if you're investing in environmental projects and you're doing something for for the environment, who cares about the real reason of why you're doing it? Of course,
Right.
you should do it for.
As long as you do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But we actually met also big emitters, and in that way, they kind of have a very conscious approach, sorry, a very conscious approach, but they also know that they need to. So,
Right.
yeah.
What do you think about the fact that this entire industry doesn't have a lot of regulations around it? So for me, it's so wild that a market that's worth like billions, and I think even like it's about to be worth like a trillion or something like this, it literally only has private organizations ruling the whole thing, such as Vera, some of those like rating providers, etc. And there is not a single governmental institution that has actually taken part in trying to clean up this mess. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, so I think that as long as we stick to the voluntary environment, uh, it's kind of difficult to put regulations on it. I mean, registries can actually be recognized and should be recognized by the YETA, that is like the initiative of ICROA. That is a third entity that actually recognizes the validity of registries.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a cap of these private registries and this private network of registries. But I think that everything changes so fast and a lot depends on the country you're operating in. Let's see, Indonesia, for instance, is like changing the whole system. A lot of countries, Ecuador itself, it in Ecuador you won't find, I mean, until now, a carbon credit market
Oh,
because
wow.
yeah. So it's very related on the government side of the country you're operating in,
Mm-hmm.
and since it's a voluntary, you cannot put a governing entity on top of the government because otherwise it would be absolutely pointless having a voluntary carbon market.
Right.
So I think that being recognized by third entities like YETA, it's the first step to have kind of a common regulations between registries and private realities.
You just mentioned is very interesting. So there are some countries that are participating a lot actively in the whole market compared to the others. Why do you think that? Why do you think this trend is happening?
You mean like why some countries actually
Have a lot of
decided.
projects, yeah, and others barely have anything.
Well, actually, I think that one of the first reason is the urgency of the climate action needed. Like, okay, this country needs a lot of funds, and this is why you should be developing carbon credits projects. Like the urgency of funds and the need of fundings to actually carry on the projects to preserve or regenerate the ecosystems present in that region. The reason of instead kind of missing the market and not taking part in it, I think it's more related to taxes. that the governments would like to put on the carbon credits, and that actually we have seen it a lot. There are many countries that actually still don't have a carbon market regulated legislation because of the willingness of the government to put taxes on the carbon credits. And so, of course, it's like a vicious cycle on how to regulate the whole carbon credit market. So, because of course, taking part of an internationally recognized market, you have to stick to some rules, kind of, no? Even if it's voluntary. But if, as a government, you want to put your own regulations, so you have like a closed market that it's only related to your country. So, it's kind of part of the regulation, and taxes part of the whole.
Who's supposed to pay the tax? This is something that
Who's supposed to pay the tax? I think that final buyer should be the one. I mean, it's my very personal opinion, because actually let's do a concrete example. If you are developing a project, and you are, I don't know, a French company that wants to develop a reforestation project in another country, you are taking the rights of the carbon credits that you are developing. But you are taking the credits from a country that is not yours. So you should pay a tax on it. So as a developer, of course, it gives you an added cost to the whole project development. But you can put that cost on the final price that you actually offer to the potential client. And I think that whoever approaches carbon credits should approach carbon credits as the very last option, because of all the mitigation and in setting part. So if you have a strong carbon offsetting assessment and auditing, and you know that you have a strategy in hands that will allow you to emit less every year, you will have to buy less credits, and a higher price would actually like support this theory in which you have to work before than after.
Gotcha. Most of the projects, are they developed on a privately held land or like government-owned land?
It depends. It depends. Yeah.
So there's no
Yeah. No, absolutely no rules. It depends, because maybe sometimes it's land that it's kind of it's owned by the government, but it's managed, and the authority falls behind local communities. It might happen. I think that maybe the majority of the carbon credit projects are developed on private land. But it largely depends on the region and the country you're operating in.
Gotcha. What would be the top 3 countries from your perspective where obviously like there is high amount of urgency and where the projects are of the highest quality that you've seen?
So I would think that all the projects related to wetlands are now really on the spotlight of carbon credits because of the...
Good or bad?
No, good. I mean, they are very precious ecosystem that has been kind of ignored so far. I don't know why. I mean, it was kind of shaded behind the big forest conservation, but actually wetland and peatlands have a very high value in terms of ecosystem services and biodiversity. So it would mean that operating on those kind of ecosystems would also benefit very different elements in local communities, biodiversity and whatever. So I think that like the whole kind of Indonesia, Borneo region is severely affected by deforestation. So, kind of operating there and giving the people the reasons to protect the land instead of deforesting it should be on top of the priorities. And of course, the tropical the tropic regions are the one on the spotlight for carbon credits because of conditions and and also this is my very personal opinion. I think that carbon credits should kind of go beyond the carbon narrative as it is. Like, it should be very important to develop projects where also we have hotspots of biodiversity so that we can combine the carbon narrative and the biodiversity narrative. Because when you are protecting a forest, of course, you are also protecting a stock of carbon, but by protecting a forest, you are actually allowing biodiversity to flourish. You're allowing the protection of biological corridors. So there is a lot more beyond the just carbon narrative that we put on carbon credits. But of course, they were made for that. So it's something that will be developed in the future.
No, but I absolutely agree that co-benefits, I think, are very often overlooked because it's all about, okay, how many tons of
Yeah.
to can I actually
Yeah,
scoop from
totally.
here. All right. To start wrapping this up, do you have any like hot picks from your recent projects that you would recommend to any potential buyer who is listening to us right now?
Well,
What,
that's
what's your
kind of a
favorite?
question. No, thanks to your satellite monitoring, actually, um, we are assessing all our projects, and we have seen that the whole category of conservation projects are going very, very well. So we are very happy of this thing because it means that all our efforts are actually concretely taking place. And so, to whoever would like to invest in forest preservation and conservation with us, they can be sure that the projects are going very well. They are successfully developed by very trusted local partners, and that they can monitor the project as much as we do through the satellite monitoring that you guys as Obrify are offering to us.
Maybe I didn't phrase the question correctly. I was meaning
Oh,
to
sorry.
ask if you have like a favorite project in your portfolio.
Okay, if I have a favorite, if we have a favorite project, oh my God, no, 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 don't ask me this kind of things. I'm the kind of person that, if you ask me what is my favorite color, I cannot really answer to you. So and of course, as the impact manager that is following all the projects, I
Mm-hmm.
really, really cannot my favorite child. I cannot pick my favorite child. So I love every project on itself. So yeah, absolutely, they are very, very, very valuable projects. Very different from one another and for very tiny but very important reasons. So, no, I really cannot pick one. I'm sorry.
All right, fair enough. As a mom, I can relate.
Okay, fine.
Are there any like final blessings or final words that you would like to share with the listeners?
Yes, absolutely. And it's cherish the nature that is around you. Just don't give it for granted because it's not. Absolutely, it's not. Be able to recognize the beauty that is in it, whether you live in a city or by the countryside or by the seaside. Cherish, cherish the nature that it's around you, because this is where you come from, and do not be afraid to spread the voice. I'm the very annoying person that actually might tap on the shoulder of a person that actually just thrown the cigarette on the street and, hey, can you please put it on the bin? So absolutely, don't be afraid to spread a voice. Don't be afraid to share the beauty of our nature and cherish it.
This is really well said. Thank you so much for coming to our podcast, Julia, and thank you for being our valued partner. We really enjoy watching, quite literally, your project. And thank you again for taking the time to be with us today.
Thanks to you, Alia, and to the whole amazing Orbify team.